Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for SiStar Light Up. I am so honored to have Miss Selima Harleston, right? Lust.
Lust,
I
yep.
always mess up people's last names, so that's just even though I've said it in my head like 5 times, I'm like,
Okay.
I always mess it up. So I'm so honored to have you here. So for all of you guys who will be tuning in either later on the replay or tuning in soon, Selima is a wife, a mother, and she is the co-founder of Iwilla Remedies, and she'll be talking about that and what that is. She's passionate about helping people in travel. She is a clinical herbalist. This is one of the things that really I was like, I have to have her on here because I want her. I mean, I'm dabbling in the beginnings of herbalism, so I was like, I need to have someone. And we're not here to give advice or anything like that, but I just want you to talk about your journey and how you got into this space of herbalism, because it's such an old, ancient a modality of healing, and so it's been hidden for such a long time, and now it's starting to reemerge. So I'm super excited for you to talk about a little bit about that. She's also a medical astrologer. That's super interesting. I can't wait to talk about that. And a spiritual teacher. So I'm super excited. And in one of my posts, I joked around and I said, I want to grow up to be like her, because even though she's a lot younger than I am, I want to grow up to be like her. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you for I know you have a small child at home and your wife, and taking some time away from Sunday family time. So I appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Yes.
So let's get started. So I'm just excited to have you with all of your beautiful healing abilities and modalities. Tell me a little bit about how you got started on this journey.
Yeah, of course. And this was not the path. This was not the plan, right? We always have our own plan.
Right.
I was really pursuing arts and music, and professionally, all the doors had kind of closed in my face. And physically, what was going on in my personal life, like I was just experiencing a ton of chronic pain that seemed to have like no rhyme or reason to it. And I think it was our honeymoon that we had a great honeymoon, but I was sick the entire time. And that was really the moment where I was like, I've got to get my health together. And Tammy was the one who, because we had been going through the cycles of just going to the doctor, getting prescriptions, them not working, or I was having hot flashes, side effects. And she was the one who really stopped us from that cycle of insanity. And it was really from the first bottle of like essential oil, lavender essential oil, where we started to see improvement with herbs and with essential oils and with natural solutions. And from there, it really just, it took off in an amazing way. And there was also this plateau in the sense of like, okay, I'm feeling better. A lot of these issues that I'm experiencing, I am feeling relief, but I wasn't feeling totally healed. And I am one who's like, if I'm going to go for something, then I'm going to reach the goal. It's not just going to be this halfway, like
right.
I'm better. And I'm going to tolerate low levels of pain. So what I really discovered as we were deepening into our herbal journey, like we were already with a mentor, and it was the trauma. It was childhood trauma that as my career, I'm bringing it around, as my career doors were closing, the heal your childhood trauma, that was the only door that was open. And so just memories were resurfacing, and it was really this invitation to go deeper into the healing process and practice and journey. And plants are such a huge part of that. And bringing resolution to childhood trauma. And that's really when all the pain lifted and went. I don't experience any of those issues that I did over 10 years ago. And I just never stopped. I never stopped. And it's one of the things that I try to encourage people so much on this healing path is with other people, because you don't know what's on the other side. And it's going to be better. Like it's going to be infinitely better than what you can imagine. And most people won't even, go all the way with their healing journey because they don't know what's beyond it. And I'm like, it's going to be so much better. Clarity, purpose, pain-free, like, freedom, liberation.
Right.
So, yeah.
I know. I think people sometimes get concerned about that. It's like, where it's like there's fear, right? There's fear of failure, and there's also fear of success, and we don't think about the fear of success part, right? Because we want to be successful in everything that we do as human beings, right? But there is always that fear. I think sometimes it's even deeper than the failure, the failure fear.
Yeah. And I guess I have the opportunity to be like, I did not know, like most people don't, what's on the other side of that door. Like walking into like, okay, I'm really going to heal whatever the traumas are, traumas with the big T, traumas with the little T. I'm really going to heal them. Nobody knows what's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And that's what faith is. That's taking that step into the unknown, but having the trust that you're supported. You're supported as a human being on this planet. You're supported as a divine being on this planet. And so if we can hold on to that, that's what mustard seed faith is. It's like,
that's it.
And if you've never tried to actually carry a single mustard seed and hold onto it, it's very difficult.
Very hard, very hard. People don't understand how small, like you don't know until you see one. And you're like, oh my God, no wonder that saying means so much.
Right. Yeah. But it's the faith and the trust.
Well, and it sounded like you took some faith and trust in your wife too, because she was like she kind of, I mean, what it sounds like, I don't know if this is accurate, correct me if I'm wrong, but she kind of said, hey, let's try this. Yeah. And you didn't say, no, that's stupid, blah, 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 whatever. You were like, okay, let's try it and see what happens.
Yeah, I was skeptical. She was diving in, and I was seeing her results. And I mean, we did other things too. Like, of course, you do the external things too, where you're improving your diet, you're exercising. You're getting your movement in, you're drinking your water, all that. So you do those external things too.
Yeah.
And she was seeing results, and it was like, okay, give me some of that.
Yeah. And so then the plateau came. You talked about that, right? So, I mean, how much energy did you have to, or courage did you have to muster up to be able to go that further step, right? Because now you're discovering, okay, so I'm feeling a little better, but this is still happening. So, and then the trauma starts to resurface. So like, tell me a little bit about how, like where that went. You don't have to tell me details or anything like that, but like just kind of, what the steps were to get over that hurdle, because that's scary stuff.
It's super scary. And I think the determining factor is really the pain that is closing in on you. Like life is closing in on you. You're getting into this pressure cooker where there's only one way out. Lots of people can choose to stay in the pressure cooker and continue to experience more pain and more suffering. But like it was day and night, like that I was having sleep paralysis. So I'm not sleeping, sleep paralysis, nightmares, memories are resurfacing. Of course, it's affecting, work, relationships, sex, like all of that. So it was just around the clock. Selima, you have to deal with this.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I had a choice. I don't even know if it was about girls. It was like, I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm already in pain. And so really and that's what happens. There's relief, and it's like, okay, that relief provides you with an invitation to go a little deeper. You might be like, no, I'm good, I'm gonna deny. And then the pain comes back. It comes back with a vengeance. Like it keeps you traveling around the body. So once the trauma was resurfacing, and then also the pain was coming back. Yeah. So they were very close, like you couldn't deny the connection. And just everything was falling apart. So it was like, okay, the one thing that was holding me together, we were in our mentorship program with Karen Rose, and like that was our weekly session, just like weekly healing space. And that was the thing that felt good and continued to feel good. And the plants they're so gentle and so amazing in the sense that in some ways you don't even know that your armor is like melting away. And then doing this deep spiritual work while you're working with plants. You think you're just drinking tea, taking a tincture, like no. So deep. It's so layered if people allow it. And I had the community, I had my wife, and I had the plants. Like I had support. So I did an important piece too. I had support to continue to go deeper into these spaces that, I mean, I didn't know. What was going to happen. I knew it had to be better than what was happening, though.
Right? It had to be better. It had to be better at that point. And I know you also do. You work with Oracle and tarot cards and stuff. So it's like pulling that tower card, right? It's like, here it is. It's all crumbling. No, not back then. You're doing that.
Your journal practice,
Yeah.
practice, but
Yeah.
no.
But it's that if you would have been back then, it would have been that tarot. I mean, that tower card just showing up every time. Like, hey, listen to this right here. You're like, oh yeah. your body was already telling you that in itself.
Right. Taking the deck, then the messages from the decks as opposed to the sleep princess.
Exactly. I can't even imagine. Like, I mean, I've never experienced sleep paralysis, but I've read about it. People have talked about it, and I can't even imagine having to go through that. You're like, yeah, this is nope, not doing this anymore. No more of this. I need to sleep. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned Karen Rose, Empress Karen, as she's known on Instagram, and I'm saving my little money so that I can take her course because she seems like such an amazing soul. So, and then, so you started the personal use and then you took the course, but what made you guys take the leap to starting a business, like into starting this? And then I want you to talk about the medical astrology and how that evolved too.
Yeah, it's interesting because we started the business before we started with Karen. And so once we were making we threw away everything, all the pharmaceutical, all the over the counter, we just tossed it and decided to make all of our own medicine with herbs and with just natural products. So we started with body care. And I see this a lot too. Lots of people start their businesses, with body care. It's the same journey. And then you hit it and you're like, wait a minute, I don't really know about these plants. Let me go find a teacher.
Right.
Because by this point we were already making and selling and doing markets and vending. And I don't know if we were already online at that point. But we started the mentorship, and that's when we got the apprenticeship. That's when we got deeper into it. And we knew that we wanted to, bring what we were learning into our business. Did
that just opened something up for you guys that was different? Because you're right. I mean, a lot of people start dabbling with salves and lotions and that kind of stuff, but it's like they're not really getting the full experience of what the plant does and connecting and communing with the plants, because the plants have spirit, they have energy, they are alive, and you get so much more information from them when you start connecting in that way with them.
Exactly. Yeah, we deepened into it. I mean, and I think that when you start to study with someone, you realize, of course, how much you don't know, and how much responsibility that you have in the work. But I mean, honestly, it just became such a part of our lives. Like we just fell in love. Like we just fell in love with the work. And it turned into from kind of like a business focus into more of for this deep personal healing process. And the business became a little bit on the back burner for a while. Like we didn't want to do just body care, but we still really needed to integrate everything that we had learned. And you need the herbal work, just the medicine's got to be in your cells and your DNA. There's a whole rewiring that happens. We had a kid and that was such a huge part of the healing process too. I never wanted children. And then once, and I was that person, I was like, I am never having kids. Because it just never crossed my mind as a possibility. But once I was healing the trauma, and there was this space, when you really start to just get all of that anger and that resentment and all of that out, you have space. You have space to invite in more love. And it really was the urge of oh my goodness, I think I want to have a kid. But I knew,
who is this person?
I know. I knew there was still work that needed to be done in order for me to have him. And so just continuing in that process. And once I did that work, we were pregnant within 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
And so that's a big thing too, where during this whole period, I would say I was asking what's my work? What's going to be the next iteration of our business? What does it look like? And it really wasn't until probably we moved to Atlanta. Niles was about 1.5, almost 2, where I realized that everything I had been doing through that period was the work. When it's just such a part of you. That's it's such a part of my life to now make medicine. that I didn't realize I was doing the work as I was doing the work. And so once we had, you know, kind of gotten through a little bit of that postpartum, even though that's a full 3 years, once we got there about a year and a half, I was like, oh, like I had a whole new line. I had a whole new way of like just my own expression of the work that was really quite magical that I was in, but you know, you just don't realize that you're in it.
Yeah.
And then the next iteration of our business was born. Yeah.
So is that when the medical astrology thing happened? Like I've never, I mean, I've heard of astrology, but like medical astrology, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And when you posted that the baby's chart the other day, I was like, that is so awesome. Like, you know, I don't know anything about astrology. I have people do my chart because it's so complicated, but I'm like, one thing at a time, Jessica, one thing at a time. But that was pretty awesome to look at.
Yeah, that was for fun. Oh my goodness, that was just for fun. So there's trauma around studying astrology. I grew up in the church, and I was really into astrology and tarot. All the things I'm into now, back when I was a teenager, but I was also deeply into the church too, and went to a YPD conference. And I remember the chaperone that we were with, she chastised me for having an astrology book and a tarot deck. She was like, "We don't do that."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh." My mama never said we don't do that. What do you mean? But I felt so much shame that after that conference, I threw them away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Karen's class that it came back. There was bits of astrology in the apprenticeship with her as well. But again, Tammy was the one who bought the first, you know, astrology book that's a part of our collection. And it was another one of those things that I just kind of kept looking at. And when we moved down to Atlanta, I just started studying it, like seriously started studying it for fun. I wanted to get it. I remember being on the kitchen table and just having charts and having all these books and screaming, being like, I don't get it.
That's me. That's
me. Take a deep breath. Let me just try to do a reading. And so at the time, you know, we had these friends and I had their birth dates, and I was like, I'm just going to try and do the reading. It wasn't my intention to actually show her the reading. I was just like, let me just see everything I've been studying. Let's see how it all comes together. And I did it. And then a couple of weeks later, I think she asked me, and I was like, oh, well, I already have it. And then, so we did the reading and I was explaining everything. And she said that it was really, really accurate. So I was like, okay. So it was another one of those things. So I did it for fun because it helped me tremendously in my healing journey. One of the things that it provided was really the understanding of trauma and the why. A lot of people don't like to talk about or accept that, you know, we have free will always, and that includes when we're just source energy, when we're just back to source, we're not in the physical body. And so we also have choice in our path when we incarnate. And that just brought so much peace, honestly, to be like, oh, because it's one thing when people say, well, you chose this with mad attitude, right?
Right. No, I didn't. You want to say no, but it's like, you know, but when you say it with love, it's more accepting.
And you have like some kind of system. There has to be some framework, I think, where people can see and understand how, you know, our lifetimes are connected and infinite, how our souls are infinite, and how we always have free will, and how we're always equipped for the challenges that we choose in these lifetimes. And that just, astrology brought so much peace. It brought so much more compassion for other people and what they're experiencing. And being like, wow, when you look at other people's charts and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I don't have your chart. We are equipped for our charts. You know, we're equipped for our lived experiences. We're not equipped for other people's, but we're equipped for ours. And it helped my marriage. Astrology has been such an amazing tool. And then to see how much we see all the personality stuff. You can really see somebody's soul journey. You can see their money, their career, you know, their work, their self-care. Like you can see all that, but you can see the body. So it was just so, because I'm big on like the body's a messenger. It's not just, pain doesn't just happen randomly. No coincidence. Like nothing's accidental. And like everything has purpose, including our physical pains. And that there had to be a system that was different from Western medicine. And being able to identify what is the pain really about? And astrology is just brilliant. Medical astrology, brilliant at that, because it gives you, you can see the area of life that someone, like in their personality, in their development, where they're having this tension.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's talk through that.
Right.
And support, with plants and herbs and diet and all of those things. But let's talk through that stuff. Let's talk through this tension. And then you'll really start to see the pain lift. Yeah.
Right. And then, you are using some of the oldest ways of healing. This is it. Right. Because, and that's the thing, medicine has covered up so much of this, right? Like allopathic medicine, traditional, like what we call traditional medicine, which is not, because what you are doing is traditional medicine, and, and it comes from our ancestors, and it comes from the land. And, I do shamanic Reiki, and I'm in my third year of shamanic Reiki teacher training. And, we talk about that all the time. And that's part of the reason why I started becoming attracted to herbs and stuff. And it's like, their medicine is here. We have it right here. We don't need to go to CVS. We don't need to, it's all around us.
Yeah, I think that goes back to that support, like why, and like, why would we be here if we're not supported? You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And so everything that is on this planet, including the advances in modern medicine, like, it's great. You don't want your herbalist to do surgery. Like, come on.
That would not go well.
It's like, we're so fully supported. And I think that people need to learn how to remember that we're supported.
Exactly. And also learn how to work together, right? That's the theme right now. Within the next 5 years, this is what we need to do, is like, it's not about, and I'm glad that you said that, and, and medicine, and certain, because it's not, you didn't become an herbalist to say, like, I'm done with, allopathic medicine. No, I mean, it's in conjunction with, like, I'm sure your clients still go to their doctors, and they utilize you to supplement and to help. And so they don't have to take all those medications that the doctors were giving them. So,
yeah. And there's doctors and medical students and nurse practitioners in my program. It's like, we do need to work together. Systems, the two systems can work very well together.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the change.
Our doctor's appointments last week, get the annuals. It's like, come on.
Right. You got to keep, and like you said, the body never lies. It tells you what's going on. So we need to listen to it and treat it holistically with everything. The regular, the old medication. I mean, the old medicine and the new medicine. So, yeah. That's awesome. And I'm not even going to ask you about spiritual teacher stuff, because that's just natural and obvious. Like, you started with this, and then, I mean, I'm assuming that, maybe I should ask you instead of assuming, that it evolved into now doing the spiritual teaching, because that's just part of all of it too. Like, you can't just give somebody herbs and then not treat the whole person. So.
Right. And that was a huge part of, just my own integration, right? It was all of those pieces of, like, it's just who you are. Like, we are divine beings. And it never sat right with me to just talk about plants without being able to talk about, how do we do this emotional work? How do we do this healing work? How do we dive into, and that was my big question. I was like, okay, there's childhood trauma that I need to deal with. And of course I'm using plants for support, and so I know that my pain is directly tied to my childhood trauma, but what do I do? Right. I need tangible steps.
Yes.
And I think when we have those burning questions inside of us and we're not finding the solutions, that it's coming, it's meant to come through us. So that's a part of the program that I teach as well. It's like, here's a step-by-step process. We call it the Calypso healing method, to be able to do that emotional work and take it all the way through, where we're not just, re-triggering you and bringing up old traumas, but how do we really move past and start to write new stories for ourselves?
Right. Exactly. So speaking of that, I mean, tell me a little bit about the programs that you run, the offerings that you have. I know people can go on the website, but if you want to highlight some of the most important ones for you, or the ones that are maybe running soon or coming up, or the ones that run continuously, like, talk a little bit about your offerings.
Yeah, people can always enroll. Well, on our site, you'll see that there's herbal medicine, there's bulk herbs that are for sale and available. And then there's a mini course. It's called Everyday Herbalism. And this is like for people to dabble, just get your toe into the water, talk about 20 or so plants. They really start to introduce, like, what does it mean to choose plants based on who you are, not just based on a list of symptoms. And proper, like, medicine making techniques. So many people don't get the most out of their medicine because they're completely making it wrong. So that's the mini course. But the big course, where we're really diving into the how of this emotional work while we're learning in depth, the clinical uses, the spiritual uses, the emotional uses of plants, as well as medical astrology. That's Herbal Medicine for the Soul.
Okay.
And that's a 6-month online mentorship program. And it's really, it's a reflection. This is my healthcare system, 100%. Everything in the program, everything I do every day. And it is, it's my intention is to really help people break their cycles.
Yeah.
Chronic physical pains, mental illness, pills, side effects, trauma with herbal medicine, emotional alchemy, and spiritual alignment. And it's very much so a reflection of my path and my journey. And that, people can also, like, you're getting the skills where you can become an herbalist, you can enhance your herbal practice or your holistic practice within that program, as well as really work on yourself.
Nice.
And that's really it. I'm doing a free masterclass on Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Okay. And what is that one? What's that one? Is it herbs or is it astrology?
It's an intro to all of it.
Okay.
Really me telling my journey more in depth and detail, and kind of the mindset shifts that people need to make in order to really start to heal, where it's not like, okay, I just want to go natural, and so I don't want to take these medications, I want to do this instead. That's really kind of, it's like, instead of matching drugs with symptoms, you're just trying to match plants with symptoms. And it's like, that's not going to get you all the way there.
Right.
So introducing people to the methods that, we use inside Herbal Medicine for the Soul to really be able to, like, do this inner work. So that's happening on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. Right.
Asking for an evening time, and it's like, no, I have a family.
Yeah, sorry, no, I got to take care of myself too. Good for you. That's it. That's right. Is that going to be, like, it's going to be live, or will you have a replay? Like, how is that going to work?
It is going to be live. There's links to register both on my personal Facebook page as well as our Instagram. I will remember. There will be a limited replay available to after.
Okay. Awesome. That's great. See, guys, she has offerings coming up. Make sure you hop onto her page, you follow her, look at her website. I mean, this is just a little bit of who you are and what you do, and it's just so impressive that you followed the breadcrumbs, you followed the call, however you want to say it. You just listened and you said, okay. And it wasn't like, oh, okay, so now this is better, let's start a business. You just let it naturally evolve. And that's how things become successful, because you just kind of answer the call to what it is. Because, I mean, you said music in college? Is that what you
Yeah.
You didn't even study social work or psychology, like you studied music.
Music, arts, like I went to grad school for arts administration. Wanted to be in the music industry so badly. That was just been dreams for decades.
Yeah.
And even have an uncle, I wonder if he'll ever watch this, like a distant cousin who was in the music industry. Yeah. Wouldn't give me an internship. I'm like, this is how it's supposed to work.
Right. But it was not your calling. Yeah.
It was not. Mm-hmm. But one of my old teachers said, and this was recently, because I had said, like, oh, all the music doors are shut in my face. And he was like, it's the same door. It's all healing. And I was like, that is so true. I needed to hear that.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That is it. That's right. Awesome. So if you can, when we're done and it pops up on the thing, just if you can I know you have your Instagram on here, but if you can just pop a link to your website so that people can go there and see your offerings, that'd be great. All right, so I have 3 questions for you that I ask everybody that I interview. So the first one is, what lights you up?
Life.
Yes.
Yeah. Life, I think life is really an amazing adventure.
Yeah.
And being able to have that attitude of like, this is an adventure, like this lifetime is as significant as a grain of sand.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, and I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Life lights me up. New experiences, change. It always gives an opportunity for me to be like, okay, spirit, how are you gonna show up? How are you gonna show up? So yeah, really life. I love life. I really do.
That's awesome. I can feel it. Seriously, I can just feel it. That smile, all of that. Like it's just, and it's true. If we can change our perspective, because life can be heavy at times, but that's all there, like you say, for us, right? For our experiences. I like to say that life is, this life, Earth is a school, and if we take advantage of all the learning and all the experiences that we have here, it could be so much better. Yeah, so I appreciate that. Life, that's beautiful. I don't think anybody ever said that, but that's a beautiful answer. You're right. That's right. Damn it. And the second question is, what advice do you have for your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Oh man.
So,
How young?
however young you want her to be.
It's the advice that I did hear, and I do believe that our versions of us, like we talk to our younger self, and I believe that we also receive those messages from our older self. So like I feel like I can hear my 60-year-old self, and so, and I would say this as I was healing too, and I think it's still the same in now, and talking to that younger me that's like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I heard that when I was living, in my parents' house, I heard that often. I was like, you're going to be okay if you just make it to 18.
Yes.
Make it to 18, you get out, you go as far away as you can.
Right. Go as far away, all the way to Atlanta. No, I'm kidding.
And then I went to the Peace Corps. I went to Samoa. I served in the Peace Corps.
Nice.
The world.
I know. I forgot to mention that. The funny thing. See, this is the difference, right? I signed up for the Peace Corps, and they called me on the day of graduation. Like I was literally coming home, taking my cap and gown off, like, and I was like, I'll call you guys back. I chickened the hell out. Like I was like, and I thought I wanted to do it so bad. Like they were about to give me my assignment, like everything, and I was like, and then like. What 2 years later it was 9/11.
Wow.
So and I had gone for my interview at the World Trade Center, so it was like, yeah, I was like, well, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe that was like, because I would have been probably like on my tail end of my assignment. And it was just whatever. Yeah. But I have a really good friend who went to the Peace Corps too. So yeah, I know, but that's awesome. Like and I remember wanting to do it because the nurse in my elementary school had gone to the Peace Corps, and she would tell us stories and about all that stuff. So it was always like very early. Yeah.
And you can still do it.
Girl, I'm too old. They don't want me in no Peace Corps.
Volunteer was our oldest volunteer was like in their 70s, like maybe 70s.
Oh, really? I thought they had a girl. I didn't know that. Oh. Well, maybe once, we'll see. That could be in the plans. That's awesome. Was that a great experience for you?
It was incredible. It was very difficult. It was incredible. It was life-changing. And probably one of the first experiences too, where I kind of got to reshape myself, like really find out who I was because of trauma and the environment that I grew up in. I was the mean girl in high school, right? And in parts of college, like just as defense, as like I didn't know how to be open.
Right.
And I hated that feedback. I hated being called mean, but I also didn't know. I didn't have any other tools. I didn't know that cycle. But when I got into the Peace Corps, I just felt freer. I felt freer to be me. I didn't feel like I needed to keep all of those guards up. And I remember it being one of the first places where people were calling me nice. I'm like, oh, she's so sweet. And I was like, wow, okay.
You're like, oh, okay, all right. It's in me. It's in me.
It is, right? Like it's in me. I'm getting the feedback that I know what's in me, right? And it's kind of where I got to be me.
That's awesome. Yeah. You're just an amazing soul. And like I was telling you before we even went on live, like I when I started seeing your stuff on Facebook, I love your videos, by the way, the tea making videos, those are awesome.
Music, although I just got cut off from like the popular songs, the licensed music.
Oh, really?
Music on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love watching all those things, and it's like, it's just, even though we've never met in person, I can just feel and sense from the content that you put out that you're just a great, beautiful soul. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
My last question is, so what advice do you have for the future generation, for these younger kids now that are going to have to, inherit our mess?
I think they're so amazing.
They are. They are.
And so inspiring. I would think it's almost like get whatever personal healing you have, just get out the way. Oh my goodness, don't wait. And I see more of that when I speak to people on the phone. People are younger and younger, facing their traumas, where I'm speaking to people who are 21 and who are 23, and it's like, yes, like you're getting it earlier. And even I was speaking with a friend, who was talking about how, she didn't get it until she was in her 40s and her 50s. And she said to me, like, it's so great that you got it, in your late 20s and your 30s. And I'm like, and I'm saying it to people who are in their early 20s. Yeah. And I would just say, like, get through the personal healing soon, because I do believe, when we have these painful experiences, it's a huge distraction. It really robs us of our time, our money, our energy, our motivation.
Yes.
Important is our motivation is what it steals and robs. Definitely. And so you find greater purpose when you're over that hump of like, here's the trauma I have to deal with. Yeah. Everybody's got to deal with trauma. Everybody.
Exactly. Those people that are in denial, like, I don't have no trauma. Yes, you do. You got it. It might be little t, but you still have it, and you still have to work through it, and it's still affecting you in some way. Yeah. That's awesome. It's true. It's so true. I've seen so many young people, 19, 20, 21. And I always say to them, I admire the fact that you have stepped into it, so leaned into this journey so gracefully without caring what your friends might think or family or whatever. There was so much of that, for me, not family, but like people, like, right. What will people think? Like, my spiritual journey has been a whole entire lifetime. Like, I was that kid running around in the rain, in the dirt, barefoot, doing a lot of shamanic things, shamanic practices that I didn't even know were shamanic practices, earthing and doing all these things. And it's like, and then you lose that when, people start looking at you and whatever. It's like like what happened with you with the tarot cards and the astrology, right? There's like, we don't do that. And it's like, oh, okay, well, shame. Okay, now I'm throwing this away. I'm building the wall up because I'm obviously doing something wrong, And the biggest thing, especially as women, we always want to be the good girl, right? Until we can't anymore because it's too much, it's too much.
Yeah, it's too narrow, right?
Exactly. Because there's so much more than just that. Yeah. So I want to thank you so much. I hope that we can do this again because I know there's so much more to talk about, but I appreciate your time and I don't want to take any more of your family time. So thank you for being here. And when you get a chance, just pop the link right in the comments so that people can find you. And everybody, I advise you, follow her. She's awesome. She has great content. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.